I think, what are some of your first thoughts around, like when you're thinking about your history, like what are some of your first memories around money and spending and budgeting potentially?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, uh, I guess I've got a couple answers. Just like I can think way back. Uh, I have a very frugal father, and he's the kind of person who like he makes his dining decisions based on if he has a coupon or not. Like he is constantly hunting for deals. And growing up, when I got my first debit card and bank account, it was like a you know joint account with him, and and so he was able to see everything. And for years and years, I mean, I still actually have this account to this day. I've since gotten credit cards he cannot see, but ironically, yeah, at age 31, my dad could still technically see my main checking account. But yeah, so like all throughout high school and even into college, my dad was constantly hassling me about things that I would spend my money on. And it almost like instilled in me this like visceral pain about spending money because I knew like if I did anything remotely frivolous, I was going to get a phone call. Or when I got home, my dad was going to be like, "Hey, so I saw that you spent $12 at Taco Bell. They've got a value menu, right?" And I literally, for all the way up until my mid 20s, I would say like the act of spending money was painful for me, and so it made me extremely frugal. And so that's why I said in that bio, when I was at Google, I was just religiously shoveling money away because even though I was making like good money more than I had been making in the startup life by a long shot, I was still so used to thinking in that way. And so even at the peak of like my Google income, I'm like looking at the tiniest little ways to cut costs at my house, like crazy things, like seeing how long I could go without using my heater during the winter. I was like sleeping in my jacket and stuff, like just crazy
Wow.
stuff. And and yeah, just seeing how low I like was obsessed with these frugality blogs like Mr. Money Mustache and like all these, fire movement people like retiring early because they got their living expenses down to like $10,000 a year, and now they can just retire anytime because it's so cheap to exist. And yeah, it wasn't until I discovered like traveling and when I first started car shopping, those two things put two major dents in my frugality. There's no, I mean, there are cheap ways to travel, but my first trip internationally was to Switzerland. If you know anything about Switzerland, you know it is not a cheap place in any way, shape, or form. I paid $30 for a cheeseburger. Uh, it's very expensive.
Wow.
And so I remember going on a trip there and spending like, you know, $2,000 or something for my trip. And to me, that was like an unfathomable amount of money to spend on anything.
For how long?
And for like 10 days,
Wow, okay.
um,
Yeah, wow.
which is actually not too bad in hindsight. Like you could do worse. And so that kind of started putting cracks in my frugality because what I started noticing was, oh, if I do that, like nothing about my life changes if I spend that money, other than like maybe my wealth front doesn't go up as high.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, it's a dangerous thing to realize because then the frugality starts, you start realizing like, oh wait, no, I don't have to be
Hmm.
that frugal. Um, and so next thing you know, once I quit Google and had no income and still saw that like as I spent money, it wasn't, you know, my life wasn't in shambles. It that was like the final nail in the coffin. And that's how I'm here now, $10,000 in penny stocks and unemployed.
What?
Um,
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna say
but
something more. All right.
uh,
What were some of the frugal